name is Marya Sawaf. I'm a solution specialist with Coveo. Previously, I was a Salesforce developer and backend developer, and I switched to Coveo because I was really impressed with their technology. So I want to talk to you about that a little today. I'm going to start with a little example. Does anyone here use Stack Overflow for Salesforce? Okay, a good number of you. So they have this cool little tool called the Data Explorer, and you can just run a query and see, the most downvoted posts on that site. So I went ahead and did that, and I got a. What do you think was like the most downvoted post? Anyone have a? It was something like this. And I don't know if that surprises many of you, but I see this all the time. People who just want someone else to write a test class for them. And how to write a test class urgent. And it's obviously tagged as a duplicate because it's been posted before quite a few times. And this is, the kind of answer you get. Here is a test class. And as it should be. But the point of Coveo is really to avoid situations like this, right? You have a community, you have a forum, or within your actual Service Cloud agent panel, when someone starts to create a case or ask a question, it's recommending content and answers that may be, that may answer their question before they even submit that case. And then that's essentially what Coveo does. So it really, recently the Magic Quadrant came out, and just like Salesforce is a leader in the category of CRMs, Coveo was listed as a leader in insight engines, which used to be called enterprise search. And another key thing to remember about Coveo is we've been working very closely with Salesforce since the launch of Lightning, so we're very tightly integrated with the Lightning experience. Before we get into that, the fun business slide with numbers and prices, I'm going to show you a bit how it looks like live on the Salesforce HMC website. So if you've used the help and training website for Salesforce and ever looked up something or looked up a question, you'll have used Coveo Search because that indeed is powering their search. And so, like the kind of features you can expect, right? You start typing, you have the query suggestions, you make a mistake, chatter, it's correcting that mistake, and all of that is driven by machine learning models. If you go and press enter, you'll get these results. And here you have like a very rich UI. You've got all sorts of facets on the side. You have tabs on the top. Your different content. So here's documentation. If I click on answers, it'll look different. It has a different icon. All of that Coveo lets you do really easily. And I guess more interesting than the UI is is the machine learning that's driving all of this. So on every result, you have, and let me know if you guys don't see this, it's a small window. Like I said, not my computer. You have your recommended learning right here, this little thing here. So that's also driven by machine learning, based on what users have clicked on previously, what other content can you recommend? So that's kind of how it looks like live on a live website. And now I get to go back to my slide. Oh, Dan, don't see it. Sorry, guys. Oh, here. OK. All right. So we kind of split our offering in two. You have free and express. And the main difference is that your Pro and Enterprise are bringing in external content. So if you're just looking to have your knowledge articles or just to start like showing internal Salesforce content, Free and Express is just fine. And I really want to highlight free is free, like no asterisk next to it. Like you can actually go live with the free version. And the other difference is kind of how it's built. Pro and Enterprise is using the Coveo index, whereas Free and Express is using Saucel. So I'm guessing a lot of you are familiar with Social. Social. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Can you give us some applications on how companies are using the free version?
Yeah, for sure. I'll show a few examples of companies that use it. The free version is only like a month old, but I could tell you like Uber is using it for internal portals. I'm trying to think of a live community. It's only a week old, so a lot of companies that are using Express right now are using it for internal portals. I'll show you how companies have used Pro and Enterprise, but unfortunately it's so new, there's not like much that's gone live right now. Yeah, okay, so I guess the main things to keep in mind is you get the rich UI that I showed you, you have your usage analytics, so this is giving you like a lot of information on what your users are doing when they're searching, what they're clicking on, and machine learning, obviously, and personalization. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you a quick demo of the product, just quickly to give you context, because you guys are developers, you want to hear the interesting technical stuff. And when I get to personalization, that's when we really get to learn about our JavaScript framework and how to personalize the content for your users. But you need some context. You need to see how the product works. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So really quickly, let's see it. I really wish I had my computer, but no. Well, that's okay. I don't think I have that tab pre-opened, but let's just go ahead and skip to the demo. I mean, essentially what I was going to show you was the difference between Salesforce search. And I don't know if you guys can picture it, but you'll have your results will really get split up. You'll have cases at the top, then discussions, and then accounts or knowledge articles. And it's not like this one unified format like we're used to with like Google search or what I had showed you just earlier. And you don't have facets on the left. So Express, Free and Express really let you do that. And then Enterprise, you'll have content externally, your SharePoint content, Jira content, whatever you want to bring in there, you can bring in there. And so how do you do it? So this is a Lightning community that I have open here. So you guys are familiar with this. It's a little community that I made for you guys. And so if I go ahead and preview, on the side, right, you have our Lightning components right here. You have search and case creation. And they're really meant to be used on your search page right here. I'm sure many of you are familiar. And on your contact support page, where you'll have our own contact form and the suggestions on the side. So I guess if I preview that, didn't I click that already? Yeah, so if I go ahead and search for something like pizza, which we all love. Yeah. Okay, so you have the one article, I love free pizza. Now say you want to edit that, right? Or change it. So we have our own interface editor that's within the Lightning editor, because everyone loves drag and drop. So we included that within the experience. And say here, account name, that's a facet that's not useful for our customers to filter by. You could easily delete it, boom, it's gone. If you want it back, you just drag it back, call it, useful facet, and just put the metadata field name. So this is including all your documents. You'll see at the all your Salesforce objects. You can put custom Salesforce objects, and you can put custom Salesforce fields, and we will include that in your results, in your search results. And we can let you filter by them. So here I'm just going to use the standard account name again. So I just reinserted that filter on the left side. So on the top you have accounts, cases, right? And you can change the way those displays, like I showed you with the help and training website. And you do that really easily. Again, going to a layout. Hey, I don't want to display the owner name on my on those results, so I delete it, save. So I think we all like get the drag and drop concept. So I can move on from that. I guess the important thing to note is this: you can actually, there's a code view to this, and this is just components that are included in the package that you can remove, include, all with code, and it's just HTML and JavaScript. And this is important to remember when you're going to go ahead and do some like really custom stuff, because you'll have to start using JavaScript to edit these components. So. Cool. Does anyone have questions so far? Is this kind of clear? Yeah. Okay. Right. So, so like I said, you have your rich UI. It's really easy to use, and then I want to talk to you a bit about the usage analytics. So this is, where the real power of Coveo is coming in, is all the data we're capturing and that you can report on. So here I have. This is the Coveo platform. This is the back end where you kind of can go see all that data. And I'm going to look at a report right here. And you really see like your key metrics, right? How many cases are being created? How many cases are being deflected, right? And we see a case is deflected when someone goes to log a case, clicks on an article that's being recommended to them, and just leaves. Doesn't write a case. And key metric is a click rank. How many results are people having to click on before actually finding what they're looking for? And you have query performance. So your top queries. So what are people mostly searching for? What are people searching for that are actually leading to cases? That's where you have your content gaps. That's where you really want to put content or improve your content to avoid people putting cases, like how to write a test class. And then. So people will probably always do that. And then, what queries are leading to cases not being created. So you really can zero down and see pretty much anything you want when it comes to your user's interaction with the search. And what are we reporting on? It's basically every session. So you can see that in the visit browser. And I'm going to look at yesterday, 'cause that's when I was playing with it. And so on every session, for example, here, you could see this person, Sawaf at Coveo.com, they came and they started searching and they put in the word pizza. They clicked on the document, I love free pizza. And then, they started searching for some more things. And basically, if I click on one of these events, this is what's really feeding our machine learning, because you can, you'll see some of the metadata being captured is language. Our machine learning models change per language, obviously, because language is so important to search and how you retrieve documents. The interface, so your community versus your agent panel, the way your agent search is not necessarily the same as how customers are going to search. So all that's important for machine learning. And all of this is what's feeding the machine learning models, right? I think a cool way to see what's machine learning doing, concretely, is the Logitech website. So their help and their support community is actually powered by Coveo. And so, often people would come and they would search for mouse, right? Logitech has a lot of mouse, and they're trying to troubleshoot an issue with their mouse. And the top results were those weird, football things that you wanted when you were 8 years old. Whereas most people actually were looking for support for these kind of mouses. And over time, machine learning learned that, okay, this is what people are clicking on. And it started boosting those results. And that wasn't the organic results that you got, just looking at metadata, the word in the title, or just using, TF-IDF, the term frequency. That was machine learning driven. And then, a really interesting example where you see this happening is, people were trying to search for, troubleshoot their wireless mouse, and they were looking at like a little product number that was on the back of the USB dongle. So it's like CUAY59. Well, they didn't find mouse. Technically it's not in the title, it's not in the metadata. How would they find what they were actually looking for? Well, over time, people ended up going back, looking at their mouse, searching it. So when people put that in, and they often did, they finally found the mouse as a result. So that's really important for increasing the relevance for your users on your community. Yeah, so that's kind of like the machine learning live in a website. There are ways to tweak it, and this is kind of what you guys can get like hands-on with. You have right here, so actually, gonna go here. So this is kind of, does anyone follow XKCD? Yeah? Okay. There's a really good comic on machine learning. And this is what I consider what we do right now with the tweaking. So I don't know if anyone can see this. Maybe you've seen it before. Here, let me. Yeah. So this is your machine learning system. Yep, you pour the data into this big pile of linear algebra. And what if the answers are wrong? Well, just stir the pile until they start looking right. And that's what we're about to do. Machine learning should really be taking over all of this. But sometimes, say, you have a smaller community, and it's taking time for the model to start learning what's relevant. Well, you can kind of help it promote the results that you want to see at the top. So for example, here, so right here, for example, if you're going to add a model. So our machine learning models are used in 3 ways. The query suggestions, when you're typing. The relevance boosting, right? What's the most relevant result. And recommendations, that little widget, it's promoting related content before you even search. And so when you're adding a new machine learning model, you're supposed to select one of these to say what model are you training. And you can select the frequency you train it, daily, weekly, monthly, and what data period you're training it on. So 1 week versus 3 months. And the more content you have and the more user interactions you do, you want to train it a little less frequently, right? Because it's very process heavy. And you're not necessarily really improving your results by doing that. Yeah?
It's a little small back here. That picture of the models that you can choose, which ones are available?
Yeah, sure. Did you, the drop down?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. What about?
The models you can choose, is that what I understand?
Yeah, exactly. So you could, when you're going to go tweak it, like I said, stir the pile, you can select the model. So it's either
What models do you provide?
tuning,
You can't see the choices.
Oh, tune relevance. Suggest the queries and giving the recommendation. Is that what you're looking for? Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay. So other things you can do to kind of change those results besides tweaking the machine learning, besides putting a new model, you can have a ranking expression. So for example, here in this case, for any sources coming from SharePoint, right? Okay, say you want to increase those. You can say, hey, let's boost it by 152. And anything between -100 and 100 is a good way. Anything more, you're really messing with the machine learning model, and you should let it do its thing and just kind of slightly tweak it. You also have other things, right, like thesaurus. If users are searching for add-on, but your documentation uses the word plugin, well, you can kind of equate them as far as the relevance goes. And you could do other stuff like any query containing PowerPoint, boost this getting started with PowerPoint, this step-by-step guide, because that's what your initial users are looking for. So you can do some cool stuff with that. I guess another website that uses it as well is Adobe. And I'm going to talk about Adobe a bit because when you're personalizing the content for the user's profile, you have to start getting into the actual JavaScript. And Adobe does this. I want to show you an example here. Right, so in app, you can kind of really pull that JavaScript, those JavaScript components, those HTML components that I had showed you earlier. You can pull them even out of Salesforce, right? And you can put them anywhere. So Adobe has done this within their in-app experience. So like you're in Photoshop and you need help, like how to crop or how to align layers, which I never actually figured out. And then like they're using Coveo for this, right? And they're just kind of using our JavaScript framework to do it. Adobe also, is a good example of our machine learning. They have like, if I'm on the main website for Adobe right now and I type in crop, well, it's going to give me, some results, but this time it's in Illustrator, right? But if I start from Adobe Photoshop, the actual product, and I type in crop, machine learning has used that, customers starting from the Photoshop page and then searching for the word crop actually are looking for this result. And you see, like, the Photoshop facet isn't even selected. This is like purely machine learning driven. No one said, oh no, I actually want it for Photoshop. Okay, so boring stuff is over. I really want to talk to you about how you can use your developer skills to customize this experience. And one of the ways you can do that is personalizing your content. You really want that like creepy Google experience where you know everything about the person and you're like telling them what they're looking for. And this is how you can achieve that. It's great. So those JavaScript components I was talking about, we have a GitHub repo. It's open source. Since that's the one included in the package in our Salesforce package, by contributing to it, you're also contributing components to the whole Salesforce community. And there are some core concepts, okay? So we have events, and these are just regular DOM events. And you're basically passing along with the query at different stages, right? So when someone's typing it, before they've pressed submit, and then our query, once it's submitted, it's actually talking to our search API, and that API is retrieving it from Sossel or an index and returning the results. And then when it's returned, you can say, when the query is successful, actually change the results in this way, filter them, HTML encode them. You can start doing fun stuff like that with JavaScript. So for personalization, it's really, really simple. It's just a few lines of code. When the query is being built, you want to add a context, okay? And that context is the user's role. And that's being pulled out of the Salesforce user object, right? It's just a user role. And then, so it's kind of like two steps, right? When you're sending the query and asking our search API, hey, give me the results relevant for people with that user role, that's what you have to do. But also, when someone is with that user role, you need to tell machine learning, you need to tell them, oh, okay, someone with this user role is searching this, is clicking this, so that there's a machine learning model that's being customized for that type of profile. And again, so this is what you're doing, is before the analytics events get submitted and sent to our servers, you're stopping it and you're sending this as metadata. That's kind of clear. So how are you pulling that context out, right? We kind of exposed some key ones like the user role and the user type already, so you could just do that in our drag and drop interface. But say you want to do this with like a product that's or a contract or something that someone's purchased that you know about. Well, then you have to kind of start bringing in an Apex controller. And it's still very simple, right? Because our visual force pages, and it's a lightning talk, so I do have an Aura component. It looks very similar. You're just basically, this is what, like, when you download our package, a visual force page or a lightning component, it gets created, and this is all it is, right? It's just 3 lines. It's the Coveo search interface. But if you're going to start sending a custom context, well, then you're adding a parameter that says search context equals and retrieving. There's like a getter method there, and you're retrieving the context from an Apex controller. And And the Apex controller is just going to look something like this, right? This is my search controller, and you're calling just an object called search context that's included in our package. And it's basically just like a key value array, right? You put food here in this case, the food was pizza, and you're returning that context, and then you're sending it to the actual JavaScript framework, and within the JavaScript you call Coveo.context the key that you just created, right? In this case, food. So it's really, really simple to do stuff like that. You just kind of need to get familiar with our different events, during the query, after the query, during display, after display, and some of our methods like logging events or executing the query, which is probably key for a search interface. That's pretty much it. This is kind of like a forward-looking statement, like what Salesforce usually has, those, their first slide there, the legal warning, right? We're Canadian, so we're a little less afraid of litigation. And so this is coming as our index agnostic offering, right? So not the Coveo index, not Saucil. If you have something on Elasticsearch or your own index, you can go inject that rich UI, those usage analytics, and that machine learning onto that index, all using kind of that easy framework that I just spoke to you about. And that's my call to action, which was supposed to be a download express. That was bad. Let's go back. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
So the example you showed earlier, when depending on which Photoshop, if you're searching for Photoshop page, that is achieved with the context API that you just demonstrated, right? It doesn't just analyze the whole page and determine it.
No, that's not context. The context is really based on something you want to pass to it and start having machine learning learn around it. So if it's a product, for example, or a user type. So if you have if you're at Salesforce, right? You have your administrators and you have your developers, and you want, when someone's searching, that person's a developer. Okay, you want to promote actual code or more technical stuff. And if it's an administrator, you want to promote more business type of documentation. But that machine learning that you saw on the Adobe website, that's basically there's a parameter that's sent with all our queries. It's called action history. And it says, okay, that person went to this, they viewed this, they saw this, and that's being sent to our machine learning models without the context. And that's learning just over the pattern of what they're searching for, like what I showed you in the visit browser, those steps I said. And then it's boosting content based on what people are finding relevant.
So even without specifically telling it to watch for which product that I'm searching from, it somehow figures out where to go.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
And also, so is there a way to how in Salesforce you have a dev org that you can set up and just play around with the sandbox?
Yeah.
Is there a sandbox version of Coveo?
So there's Coveo free, right? You can go ahead and if you have a dev org with just a developer org with Salesforce, you can go install our package for free, and you can start playing around with it. And even the Pro and Enterprise ones, they have 30-day free trials. So if you there are features in there that you want to see, you can play around with those. But the free is free forever. You can use it. And if you actually go live with Coveo or you buy it or whatever, it comes with the sandbox Coveo. But you don't need that to start playing around with it. Yeah.
Where is the index data stored? I mean, how much, do you have any metrics on how much overhead, how much of my disk space is being used for the indexing?
Well, that's going to be stored with Coveo, right? I know some customers, we're HIPAA compliant and all sorts of different security standards. I don't know them all, but it is basically on AWS, and we have our different security infrastructure. It won't cost you anything, right? It's kind of built into the cost of Coveo. Now, if you do the index agnostic offering that's forward-looking, right? Then I don't know. You guys are kind of managing your own index. But with Coveo, we have your index, so we're taking care of that. Is that clear? Does that answer your question?
So there's no overhead in my Salesforce instance to manage the index?
No, I mean, if you mean in terms of like number of documents, like, is that what you mean? Like, yeah. So our different offerings will have. That's why the enterprise price is like contact us, right? If you have like a gazillion documents and your index has just ballooned like crazy, it's going to cost you more. But with Pro, you have 500,000 documents that you can index, and that was starting at 1,750, just to be kind of. If that answers your question directly in terms of cost. And then free, there's no index, right? It's just a SOSL call in the background where we're injecting all our different machine learning and technology.
Cool. Okay. You may have said this already, but is Coveo what's running in the Success Community and Power Best Hub search? Do you know?
I'm not sure. No, I don't think so. But like, I'll have to double check for you. I know we run help and training, maybe some other stuff, but
Because those have suggested search and type ahead, but they don't have they're called facets, right?
Right, exactly.
They don't have the facets.
And you want the fast.
Well, I was just curious
Yeah.
if that was Salesforce or not.
So they're not, no, it's App Exchange, Help and Training, Slack, soon to be Help and Training and Funnel.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Well, hey guys, thanks for your time.